We're waiting for Jason. We're so happy to have you here, Jason. All right. Good morning. I'm now going to call the February 6, 2024 San Diego County Board of Supervisors regular meeting to order. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the land we called home. There are communities in the San Diego region that face unjust conditions and circumstances related to the environments in which we live. Tribal nations of the San Diego region are an example of one community that historically faced such injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples, who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States, from 4 culture groups, the Kumeyaay, the Luiseño, the Cupeño, and the Kauai. We aspire to learn from indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustices of the past. With that, I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. Supervisor Anderson. Supervisor Montgomery Stepp.
Here.
Supervisor Desmond.
Here.
Vice Chair Lawson-Remer.
Here.
Chairwoman Vargas.
Vargas here. Did you hear me? Okay. Give me 1 minute. All right, with that, we're going to have the invocation by Reverend Madison Chalkley. So happy to see you, sir. And then after he delivers the invocation, George Lowe, UCSD Associated Student President, will deliver the Pledge of Allegiance. And so I'm going to ask everybody to stand for the invocation and the pledge. Let me make sure my phones are turned on.
Let us pray. Holy One, Creator of all that is, divine parent of all your children, we give you thanks today for life. We give thanks because we realize and recognize that nothing we have done merits our existence on this earth, but only your mercy and your grace sustain us. And so it is that we approach this holy moment with humility, acknowledging that no one of us is closer to you than any other, but also with thankfulness that a spark of divinity animates every human being. Blessed are we to live in this stunning corner of your creation, so much so that your children from all over this planet are drawn to its beautiful beaches and often, but not always, sunny, warm weather. We are taught that God is love. Therefore, we strive with our whole souls to live lives that reflect your love. Help us, your children, to love each other as you have loved us. May we live in this county in peace, with compassion and with care for one another, especially those among us who are in need of food, in need of shelter against the unrelenting rain, in need of health care for body, mind, and soul, for those most in need of hope. Finally, send your Spirit upon those who bear the burden of leadership. May the deliberations today be filled with truth and candor, with intelligence and with an absence of malice. Send your Spirit upon these supervisors and every constituent of our blessed county, that the outcomes today would bring us closer to your vision of the beloved community in which all your children and each of our sacred siblings may flourish and grow. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. Please place your right hand over your heart and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right, we're now going to proceed with our proclamations and awards. So the first presentation is the proclamation honoring the Year of the Dragon Lunar New Year celebration, and accepting the proclamation will be Jason Pacquiao and board members. Wonderful. Let's give him a big round of applause. Did you bring the purple dragon on purpose? That's my favorite color. Thank you. I'm so happy that all of you are here. I'm excited that we're gathered here in our county administration office to celebrate the Year of the Dragon, the Lunar New Year. I want to thank the Asian Business Association team and the president and CEO, Jason Paqueo. I also would like to thank the board members who are here with us today. Appreciate all of you being here. February 10th, 2024 is the lunar calendar will bring the Year of the Dragon, a momentous event celebrated by billions worldwide. With over 2 billion people joining in the Lunar New Year festivities, we honor the vibrant Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, and other Asian communities that enrich San Diego County. The Asian Business Association San Diego has been at the forefront of commemorating this cherished tradition for over 25 years. The Year of the Dragon holds special significance, symbolizing greatness, luck, intelligence, and optimism. We all need that. So it is really believed that those born under this sign possess remarkable qualities, and we extend our warm wishes to families welcoming dragon babies into the world. In partnership with UC San Diego Health and the Assessor Recorder County Clerk's Office, we celebrate this occasion by presenting lucky red envelopes to newborns, symbolizing the prosperity and good fortune associated with the New Year of the Dragon. So as we joyfully celebrate Lunar New Year, it is really crucial for me to emphasize how important it is that absolutely we have to continue to work together. We recognize the profound significance not only of this occasion, but also extend our deep respect of the resilience, creativity, and invaluable contributions of the AA and HPI community in San Diego and beyond, and in turn, a community that continues to fight for systemic racism, that we must always denounce xenophobia, and that we have to stand together as we fight against hate, racism everywhere, especially during a time when we must denounce anti-Asian racism in our communities. Our county must affirm and it's committed to the well-being of our Asian American, Native, Hawaiian, Pacific Islander communities. And so I'm excited to be here with all of you and continue to safeguard the principles of equality, but also fostering a community that thrives on diversity and mutual understanding. So today we stand united together, and it's exciting for me to celebrate with all of you. So I'm excited that you've all made significant contributions, and thank you as we celebrate and officially declare the Lunar New Year Celebration Week for 2024 as the Asian Business Association Year of the Dragon. So now, the fun part. Be it proclaimed by Chairwoman Nora Vargas and the County of San Diego Board of Supervisors, for and on behalf of the County of San Diego, does hereby proclaim the week of February 6th to be 2024 Asian Business Association Year of the Dragon Lunar New Year Celebration in the County of San Diego. There you go. Can you see that?
I'll keep this brief. Chair Vargas, Board of Supervisors, thank you so much for your support and recognizing a very diverse community for us. The AA and HPI community is among the fastest growing, not just in the nation, but in San Diego County. I'd be remiss not to acknowledge and thank that in the state of California, California last year was the first state in the entire nation to declare Lunar New Year an official state holiday. That is in part to Assembly Member Evan Lowe, signed into law by Governor Newsom. So California leads the way in many ways, and so we're so thankful that California and the County of San Diego is recognizing our very important community and the contributions they make to our region. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas and the Board of Supervisors, for declaring this the Lunar New Year celebration. And as Chairwoman Vargas said, this is the Year of the Dragon, an extremely auspicious year to have a baby. And it's actually statistically the highest birth rate amongst the Lunar New Year celebrating populations. And so my office, the Assessor Recorder County Clerk, I'm here with my assistant, Tim Bonkowski, and Chief Deputy Van Hanfield. We came together with our team and said, how can we celebrate the rich culture and history of our community? How can we be there to say Happy New Year from our office and to celebrate all the dragon babies that are going to be tough, strong, smart, healthy, maybe like our chairwoman over here. And so we partnered with our Asian Business Association San Diego, and thanks to the folks at UC San Diego Health, at all of our offices across the county through the month of February, we will be providing red lucky envelopes with the cutest little baby dragon on it. And so if you said, hey, I missed out, I wasn't a Dragon baby, but you want to reprint your birth certificate, don't worry. As long as supplies last, we will have those for you. And so thank you so much to the Board of Supervisors and to our partnership with Jason Pagiao and the Asian Business Association and our lucky lion dancers over here. And thank you, everybody, so much.
All right, so let's go take a picture. The next proclamation I'm going to be presenting with our county supervisor, who's also made history, Monica Montgomery Stepp, and together we're going to be honoring Black History Month, and accepting the proclamation will be Elder Herbert Brown and Dr. Brandon Gamble.
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you for joining me in declaring February 2024 as Black History Month in our county. Black History Month is a time of recognizing the sacrifice, achievements, and resilience of Black people and communities in America. We know that the foundation of this country was built by people who were stolen from their native land and enslaved for hundreds of years, but that is not where the story ends. Black culture and excellence are a part of American history, especially locally here in San Diego. Black history includes the early pioneering Black families and businesses who settled in the Gaslamp area. Restrictive covenants pushed these residents to Imperial Avenue in Logan Heights, but the area was significant for its crucial role in providing essential services, fostering community connections, and contributing to the economic and cultural vitality of the African American community and the community overall. Today, we want to honor a piece of Black history in the making, which includes service to the community through our faith institutions. The faith community has always played a central and pivotal role in the history and culture of Black communities, and we recognize that today in New Seasons Church. New Seasons Church is led by Bishop A.B. Vines and has invested in uplifting the community around them. After the flooding on January 22nd, Bishop Vines and the New Seasons Church stepped up and allowed us to use church facilities as a site for community cleanup for bulky items damaged in the floods. I want to thank New Seasons for everything that they do to build a legacy of hope and inspiration for future generations. I would also like to thank Dr. Brandon Gamble, representing the Black Resource Center at the San Diego State University, who is here with us today. And also a quick shout out to the African American Association of County Employees, their entire organization, and their president, Kalia Kincaid. And at this time, I will turn it back over to the chairwoman for the proclamation presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor, and thank you to New Seasons Church and the SDSU Black Resource Center for everything that they've done for our community as we honor Black pioneers, civil rights leaders, abolitionists, visionaries, inventors, and trailblazers within and throughout our great nation. New Seasons Church, as has been mentioned, is one of the beacons of hope for underserved and disenfranchised communities of color in San Diego. And today we shine a light on all of the efforts, contributions that all of you have done to revitalize after the massive flooding that has devastated and divided and troubled many communities in San Diego County. As it was mentioned, we are really grateful for everything that you do, especially during the floods. I want to emphasize the great importance of leaders like New Seasons Church and San Diego State Black Resource Center, because they and we stand on the shoulders of our great Black communities that have paved the way for us to see light today and granted us the privilege to effect positive change. With that, it is my honor to really make sure that we are focusing on celebrating the African American community as we move forward. And so with that, San Diego County is going to continue to grow strong and continue our efforts to cultivate, nurture, and preserve Black Americans, African Americans, and ones from African heritage, culture, innovation, and spirit, because of that, we say thank you. So be that, because, you know, this is your first proclamation, I think you should do it. Right? This is your first proclamation.
Okay,
So it's like
yes.
a really important one.
I switch it. Be it proclaimed by Chairwoman Nora Vargas and myself and the rest of my colleagues on this 6th day of February 2024 that we do hereby declare this month to be Black History Month throughout San Diego County.
Hey. Is it one? This one. Two. Oh, we got two.
Yep, there we go.
So we're going to go back.
Of course.
We'll go back here.
Yes, thank you.
Looking over here, Supervisor. Go, 1, 2, 3. All right, 1, 2, 3.
The next proclamation will begin by Supervisor Anderson honoring Alessandra Lezama. Accepting the proclamation will be Alessandra Lezama.
Welcome, everybody, this morning. I'm excited to be here today to recognize an extraordinary member of our community, Alessandra Lezama. Alessandra is widely known throughout San Diego County, not only for her award-winning technology, Tutress, but also for her work as chair of the San Diego County Regional Chamber of Commerce. Alessandra, her program Tutress provides an on-demand child care for parents, empowering them to feel peace of mind, knowing that their children are safe and secure in a child care center of their choosing. Tutress is an I had a little trouble this morning, sorry. Tutorus has increased accessibility to high-quality childcare in San Diego County, bridging the gap between prospective parents and child care centers through their ease-of-use platform. We all know that one of the biggest challenges to family is childcare. And it's very disconcerting when you're at work and you don't think your children are safe. So having this software, being able to find locations that best serve your family and the needs of your family and your children is really important. During today's digital age, a technology platform that provides affordable access to high-quality childcare gives the parents of today a multitude of options for their children to feel safe, secure, and protected. And for those reasons, I'm proud to present this proclamation honoring Sandra Lezama. And it says, be it proclaimed by the Board of Supervisors that this 6th day of February 2024 is Alessandra Lezama Day throughout San Diego County. Now, I'm going to hold this, but would you like to say a few words? And then I'll present it to you.
Thank you so much. I'm extremely proud, and I am so grateful and honored to be here. Thank you to the Board of Supervisors. It's my privilege to help working parents secure accessible, affordable, and quality childcare. Every little child deserves the opportunity to start out their lives in great care so that they can have the best opportunity to thrive. And working parents need childcare to get to work so that they can provide for their families. And employers at the same time need extraordinary people to come to work so that they could grow and we can help our economy thrive. So childcare is the sticky glue that holds everything together. And I am so proud to provide a platform that enables parents, employers, community organizations, and the entire ecosystem come together so that our little ones can be in the best high-quality childcare. Thank you so very much. I'm so honored.
Thank you. Now let's go back and do a photo together.
Congratulations, Alessandra. All right, so we got so excited about our Black History Month proclamation that we forgot to ask Dr. Brown to speak. So can I ask you if you want to say a couple of words, sir? You can speak for 5 minutes since we took your time. Just kidding. And appreciate you. Thank you.
Good morning, all. As stated earlier, I'm Elder Herb Brown from the New Seasons Church of Spring Valley, representing my pastor, Dr. A.B. Vines, who unfortunately couldn't be here this morning because of a prior engagement, a member of our congregation who is having surgery this morning, and he felt it was much more important to be there for that than to be here. Dr. Vines is a real humble man who doesn't seek any personal accolades, but is always overjoyed when the church itself is recognized for the work that we do. I don't know what I was expecting when I came here this morning, but I'm absolutely overjoyed that you would take the time to recognize us. We are a church, a Bible-believing and a Bible-teaching church, and we are all about service. Service is what we do. You may be familiar, some of you anyway, may be familiar with one of our major outreaches, which was birthed within the church, called Heaven's Windows, which is a major food distribution and support organization serving thousands of people in the East County. Hunger or need doesn't know any boundaries. It doesn't recognize color. It doesn't recognize a race. People need help. And we try to be that help. We consider ourselves a spiritual hospital where the broken, those who are broken spiritually, have a place to come for healing. And we try to provide that kind of help to get them back on their feet, to return to the community and become lights for Christ. We're all about edifying God and Christ. Everything that we do, we want to ensure edifies that work. The Lord is supreme. I'm just thankful that you did indeed take the time to recognize us this morning. I see a few familiar faces, and that's comforting. I know New Seasons, although we are a small organization, we have a huge outreach and a long, long arm. And I thank you this morning.
Thank you. We appreciate you. The final proclamation will be given by Supervisor Desmond honoring Love ESCO Month. Accepting the proclamation will be Liliana Arjona Garzón.
All right, I can put my hat on here. All right. Well, no dragons, no dancing grapes, nothing. Okay, appreciate. Well, this is a proclamation honoring Love ESCO Month. I'm happy to see everyone made it down here from Escondido through the weather, particularly everyone from Escondido here today. But Escondido's Love ESCO organization was actually started just a few years ago in 2021, and it's been focusing on volunteerism and community service projects within the community. This morning we have Lillian Arjona Garzón. She's the director of Love ESCO and their leadership team. And welcome and thank you for being here today. I know there's other community projects you could be doing today, right? In the rain, with lots of opportunities. But Love ESCO has mobilized over 2,000 volunteers, accumulating over 10,000 hours of service with over 50+ projects already completed since 2021. They work on community service projects such as cleaning local parks, and my office actually got to see firsthand a park that they are revitalizing right near an elementary school. So Love ESCO spreads kindness to the local teachers, first responders. They also gather care packages such as collecting laundry supplies, hygiene kits, and food for families in need. All these neighborly kindness deeds come from the foundation for February being Love ESCO Month. So they've partnered with the city of Escondido as well, multiple nonprofits, charities, businesses, community organizations, all working together on community projects scheduled in and around Escondido. Last Saturday, even during the rain, they kicked off Love ESCO Day at Grape Day Park in Escondido, where hundreds of, I've heard almost 1,000 residents came out early in the morning to celebrate this. They had many community partners turned up and participated in the festivities and getting the word out about Love ESCO. So thank you for spreading the love and kindness to our North County Escondido residents. So the County of San Diego, we're committed to recognizing and honoring those organizations that are dedicated to the best ideals of public service. And the Love ESCO organization is one such worthy organization. So therefore, be it proclaimed by myself and all of the San Diego County Supervisors on this 6th day of February 2024 that we commend Love ESCO, their partners and sponsors and volunteers for all of their time, energy, and for spreading acts of kindness to every corner of North County, Escondido, and do hereby declare February Love ESCO Month throughout San Diego County. So congratulations, and now Lillian, if you'd like to make a few remarks. Hey. All right, we got one happy person here.
Thank you, Supervisor Desmond and the Board of Supervisors for inviting us to be here and recognizing our works and efforts in loving Escondido. We are honored and humbled to be recognized. And first, I'd like to present the rest of our team who's here with us. Karina Paje, team member, Anna Nielsen, team member, Steve Nelson, board member, George Weir, board member, and Larry Michael, board member. As Supervisor Desmond mentioned, Love ESCO is a nonprofit that has been around for a couple years, focusing on spreading love and kindness throughout the city. Love ESCO was started 3 years ago by our church, Emmanuel Faith, to re-engage our community in an odd time of the pandemic. What would our city look like if we were mobilized to serve each other through acts of love? What would the impact be if we were intentional in how we cared for our green spaces, our community partners, our small businesses, and our neighbors? So I'd like to share a couple of stories with you guys from our work with Love ESCO. In the past 3 years, we have dedicated service to Kit Carson Park by doing regular cleanups in different areas, always in partnership with the City of Escondido. Last summer, the city and the Escondido Union School District reached out to ask for assistance in clearing out an area that had been filled with criminal activity that was becoming a risk for the elementary students who used the space next to it for recess. Over 2 days, hundreds of volunteers came together to reclaim a dark corner of our park and make it beautiful and usable again. We also discovered that some of the brush that we were clearing out was a favorite food for the elephants down the street at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, or the Wild Animal Park. Not only did the park get a makeover, but some elephants got to enjoy their favorite treat. Love ESCO has also helped create 5 school gardens in the last 2 years. 2 of the gardens were recipients of our micro grant program. My favorite was the one that was submitted by 5th graders with a detailed budget of what was going to be used for their project. They even invited us to their school council meeting with minutes and an agenda. I have high hopes for this next generation. And lastly, I'd like to share with you guys about our cash mobs. We're inspired by a nonprofit that focuses on caring for essential workers who work in the service industry. We encourage families, friends, or groups of people to go out to local businesses and not only support it, but give one of the employees an envelope with additional cash. The idea is that these employees can feel seen and valued by the customer. We've heard countless stories of employees feeling encouraged during hard times by these envelopes, regardless of the quantity in the envelope. One of my favorite stories was asking one of the employees who they would nominate for the envelope. She brought over a single mom who was going through a really difficult time, was going through a health crisis, and is a single mom. And there, that employee told her why she admired her and why she chose her. All 3 of us were in tears at the end. These stories are just a few examples of what makes our city great, and through Love ESCO, we have met countless individuals who are united in the cause of doing good for the sake of our great city. If you want to get involved or learn more, we'd ask you to check out our website at loveesco.org.
All right, Lily, thank you very much. Can we get a picture? Picture back there.
Thank you. We will now proceed with non-agenda public communications. This is an opportunity for the public to address the board on subject matters within the board's jurisdiction, but not on items on today's agenda. The only action that the board may take is a referral to the Chief Administrative Officer. Reminder, according to Rule 4, members of the public that are non-English speaking and need interpretation assistance will get twice the allotted time for their comments, which is 4 minutes. As a reminder, according to the board rules and procedures, audience members shall not whistle, clap, stop feed, or anything that disrupts the proceedings. To better facilitate the meeting, we will have 5 speakers in person, 5 speakers via phone, and the rest of non-agenda public communication will be heard at the close of today's meeting. Clerk, can you call the speakers, please?
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 22 requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, 6 in person and 16 requesting to speak by phone. For those that requested to speak by phone, please dial in to the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. We'll be calling the first 5 speakers. As the chairwoman indicated, all the remaining speakers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. As your name is called, please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals until it is your turn to speak. I'd like to invite forward the following individuals: Bryant Brumbaugh, Jeff No Way, Michael Brando, Kira, and Mark. If I've called your name, please come forward. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board, and I'll ask you to please state your name for the audio record.
All right, still Brian Rumbaugh. So last time I was here, the last time I was at this podium, I did talk about really the importance of the Republican form of government and how that was going to be our way to kind of really improve society. And today I'm once again going to be speaking on a lot of things. You know, Jim, it's good to see you. I know I did miss you last time I was here. You know, me and you have a little bit of a history. When I say that, I've kind of started to try to get my message out to you. And it's a very important message that God has put on my shoulders, okay? And really what it is a desire to really see improvement. And there are ways for us to be, you know, looking new directions. Us as Americans, we need to really set an example. You've already heard me say that. When I come through those gates, and once again, it still says, a good government demands the intelligent interest of all of its citizens. What we need to have is a mechanism to allow that to occur. We need to make your job easy. We need to really create an engaged society, okay? I know on Tuesdays you do offer PowerPoint presentations, okay? Well, what I can say is that I would be happy to sit down and talk to any of the resources that you guys have available. And I can tell you that I would be able to really, for lack of a better term, change the world, okay? Because, and I'm dead serious, Jim. I'm dead serious. It's an innovative thought. You know, last time I did say that there's not much innovative thought that comes up to this podium. You know, Mark has talked about the ability to print 3D printed homes to solve the homeless situation. We have societal problems, okay? We have societal problems that are leaving people having to come up here and redress their grievances because they're scared to death. I'm going to be talking about some things that are going to hit a little bit hard. It's not personal. I want to work together. We need to work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Jeff, I'm a living man, an eternal spirit inhabiting this avatar in this inverted realm of Earth School. Today I'm actually here to thank you, role-playing Board of Supervisors. I would like to thank you, adversarial minions of the dark. You see, our primary goal in this life is to realize that there's a trick being played, a trick to keep us real spiritual beings from realizing ourselves. Our dark adversary here does everything it can to trick us. There's the birth certificate scam right off the bat where we are unknowingly collateralized, the poisonous vaccines nefariously given to perfect babies, the glyphosate in our food, the fluoride in our water, the chemtrail in the skies, all in an attempt to damage and dumb us down, to try to sever our connection to spirit. We are sent to indoctrination centers full of lies that we call school to further that dumbing down. We are lied to about absolutely everything. And it's not that the school teachers, doctors, and scientists are all in on it. They've simply been lied to their entire lives as well, Andrew. We are sold fraudulent red and blue politics and told to pick a side, when in fact they are the very same nefarious team triangulating against the unknowing populace, Jim. As kids, we are plopped down in front of the television and Hollywood movies, two of the cabal's greatest weapons against the people. There are all kinds of U.S. patents for subliminal programming that most have no idea they are ingesting while watching. Luke needs Darth Vader for there to be a Star Wars movie. If everything was easy here at Earth School, our spirits would have nothing to learn. These nefarious 3D creepy role players like Biden, Trump, Newsom, Schwab, Gates, Fauci, RFK, the Pope, Netanyahu, Musk, and this BOS, through their disgusting anti-human actions, we are sparked into our spiritual awakenings. Praise God, source creator that resides not without, but within you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Thank you.
Name's Kara. The Santa Ana Watershed Project Authority, also known as SAWPA, a joint power authority spanning portions of Riverside, San Bernardino, and Orange counties, announced January 9th that they had conducted its first cloud seeding event. The agency says that the 4-year weather modification program, which launched in November 2023, intends to evaluate the effectiveness of enhancing local water supplies through cloud seeding in the region. Cloud seeding involves infusing silver iodide mixed with acetone particles into the clouds during a storm, causing ice crystals to form and water to condense into rain or snow. SAWPA cloud seeded during 3 storms in the last week of December and the first week of January. Northeastern University Assistant Professor of Public Policy and Urban Affairs and International Affairs, Laura Kuhl, says that while cloud seeding is not a new technology, first experiments took place in the 1940s, it fell out of favor in the 80s for being unacceptable ethically and an environmental hazard. Kuhl notes that several unintended consequences from cloud seeding, a study in the UAE demonstrated that cloud seeding operations lead to an increase in urban flooding. A blizzard in China killed over 40 people, and severe flooding in the UK have also been linked to cloud seeding. Kuhl goes on to say that silver iodide is known to be toxic and is regulated under the Clean Water Act as hazardous substance. Studies have documented potential harms from bioaccumulation, particularly for aquatic life. Wow, and look at our county. You guys cloud seeded us on purpose. You destroyed these people's homes. They didn't have flood insurance, but you all know that. I just hope that flood insurance gets, there's like some sort of a clause that if it's not a natural event, if it is a cloud-seeded, man-made, manipulated event, that they're covered. Jim, you're a pilot of 20-plus years, right? You don't think that anything is going on in the skies that you see? We've seen those for years. You're a liar and a coward. And
Thank
yeah.
you. Next speaker, please.
And injected, that's right.
All these videos are on YouTube. Name's Mark. These are titles of YouTube videos. There are 4 or 5 main problems that most things stem off of in our society. See zeitgeist from 6 minutes and 40 seconds to 24 minutes. That would tell you, every adult and your 5th graders, how the Federal Reserve works and how your banking works, which is a total scam. And the Founding Fathers knew this and stated it very clearly. This video by Rosa Corey, she was district branch chief for the Department of Transportation. Her expertise was land use and property valuation. She describes the Agenda 21 policies that were done in our society that she specifically saw and made it hard for her to do property evaluations. You want to see that from 3 minutes and 30 seconds onward? You want to see Goodbye American Sovereignty, Hello USMCA from 3 minutes to 6 minutes? This describes how a lot of control over our trade and immigration was given to a foreign unelected council. We only have 1 American member on that's not elected. And finally, this video, to summarize, our tax dollars, our parents, our grandparents, for generations have been paying for these companies to, the government has mixed and with companies and corporations, and they own controlling stock in many companies. This technically should be owned by American citizens because we paid for it. If you don't watch it, AI is going to take all the jobs. They're going to leave all of us with universal income while their crony executives own all of the technology we paid for. America didn't always used to be this way. People had tons of guns, the most incredible guns. Many people owned machine guns after World War II. When I was a child, everybody walked to school, boys and girls. Nobody was scared. There were no school shootings. All this is bullshit. We could return to it. People need to see these videos peacefully.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Michael. I think what I need is some more data. I need to see a table. I think what I need is some more data. I need to see a table. I think what I need is some more data.
Tara, Nora, Jim, all of you have been given data, plenty of data. Mike Borrello has talked about the bioweapon serum injections, Kathleen Melanakis, Jana at We Care For You 99 at AOL.com, and you don't listen. I want to bring this up real quick. I was gifted a framed copy of this. This is a transcript of private text messages between Nathan Fletcher, your former colleague, and Sean Elo Rivera at the City of San Diego. Monica, you neglected to talk about this when you were there. This is Sean saying, some of your public comment all-stars descended upon us this morning. Real fun bunch. Nathan, ha 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 ha, sorry about that. Wait until we do our joint meeting. We have to vote to ratify the local COVID emergency. I am dreading. We will get anti-LGBT folks, plus the COVID state of emergency stuff. Then Sean says, yeah, that'll draw out the worst of the worst. And you wonder why people don't trust you. And just now, Jim, I know I wish the camera was on you because you're turning beet red when Kara asked you, do you know if there's anything going on in the sky? You walk around and you ask people about what's going on here, they all see the geoengineering. The good news is this awakening can't be stopped. And I want to give praise, although I do not endorse any grave thing he's involved in. I'm glad you're showing your handsome face, Eric, for once.
So I'm just going to remind you to please keep the civility. Otherwise, I will go ahead and remind you about each one of the times that you're disrupting our meeting. And if you do it more than 3 times, you will be asked to leave, okay?
We'll now hear from those that requested to speak by phone. Again, we'll be hearing from the first 5 callers. All the remaining callers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. When it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'll remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We'll start with our first caller.
All the bold. Study after study, workshop after workshop. Is it the net zero effect? French King Louis XIV wanted to boost the fashion industry. Nice clothes became the rage at court. Then he realized the power of keeping busy, keeping up with changes. So he got the people to wear different style clothes at each official function. He kept them too busy to revolt. Some of them even went bankrupt. You, too, encourage us to be busy with meaningless gestures, filling out forms, voting, going to workshops, and the like, where the outcome is preordained. Meanwhile, bankrupting some, probably making even more homeless, boosting your image, but doing little for the people you serve. Are we going to pay taxes to you now for what the cities should have done instead of creating splashy buildings, art centers, and not maintaining the infrastructure? A person who is flooded out of his or her house, or who cannot get to work because the roads, bridges, or bluffs are washed out for the 3rd, 4th, or 5th time, is not going to blame one of you. He may simply just blame all of the politicians equally. You are playing with fire, all of you. Thanks. Hello?
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller. Next caller is Consuelo. Your device might be muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to point out how we are, in fact, the second most inflated county in the country. Our country residents pay the most for electricity in the world. In the past, you didn't have to ask permission from government to collect rainwater, own a property, renovate your home, use transportational vehicles, get married, own a weapon, cut hair, blah, 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 grow your own food. You can do now virtually nothing without being extorted by the government and obtaining their permission first. If you still think you're free, you're deluding yourself. You live in a tax farm as free-range humans. The bankers will make sure that we remain in debt. Pharmaceutical companies will make sure that we stay sick. Arms manufacturers will ensure that we continue going to war. Media will make sure that we are prevented from learning the truth. And government will ensure that all this can happen legally. Too many are just surviving, not thriving. They're merely existing, not truly living. Reminder, government will never be the answer. They only exist to keep us down. Stop begging government. Wake up, slaves. Slavery never ended.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Good morning. My name is Terry Ann Skelly. I came this morning as a public health educator and youth advocate to share with you the enforcement efforts happening in several cities to protect youth and young adults. These cities' attorneys are sending out letters to tobacco retailers that they must not sell intoxicating synthetic cannabis products. Prohibited intoxicating synthetic products include those claiming to be Delta 8 THC, Delta 10 THC, or other similar synthetically driven hemp-based products. These products can be eaten, drunk, vaped, or smoked. Also, these cities' code enforcement who are performing on-site assessments have been alarmed in the number of locations selling these products and the great variety of these products that actually exist. Many of those Delta 8 THC, Delta 10 THC products claim to be manufactured from hemp products, which mistakenly claim to be non-hallucinogenic. Testing indicates that the majority of these products are lying about their THC content with dire hallucinogenic results. National Poison Control Centers make it clear that both hemp-based and marijuana-based products are sending children and others to the hospital. Hemp plants and marijuana plants are both the same species. Both share the distinctive skunky smell. I would like our county to send out letters to the county's tobacco retailers reminding them that it is illegal to sell synthetic cannabis or hemp products or CBD products. Thank you for hearing me this morning.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Kevin Stevenson. First, I would like to let everyone know to stay dry to the best of your abilities today. It's going to be raining a lot this week. Today, we're supposed to get some pretty heavy rain later, including potentially thunderstorms. Also, as far as misinformation goes, I'm given a new batch of material every single non-agenda public comment portion of each meeting. Where do I even start? Oh boy, I love hearing the word chemtrails uttered completely unironically as if chemtrails are a thing, which chemtrails have been debunked over and over. So I will congratulate Jeff, though, on how he managed to get his straitjacket off. I don't know how he managed to do that. I thought that was physically impossible, but hey, he found a way. Also, look, politicians work for the people, and I've definitely seen instances of elected officials wagging their noses at people speaking out against them. especially on the left. Look at the Los Angeles City Council, for example. But I'm not going to lie. I honestly can't blame Nathan Fletcher and Shawneela Rivera for laughing at the likes of Michael Brandow for saying the nonsensical, conspiratorial nonsense that he and his buddies love to spew at not just these meetings, but also San Diego City Council meetings. And the funny thing is that some of the people who regularly speak at these meetings don't even live within the city of San Diego, to my knowledge. So that doesn't mean they can't speak at the city of San Diego meetings, but it's just kind of funny how these guys flood both.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the final caller this morning.
Good morning, Supervisors. This is Peggy Walker. I wanted to say that your disappointing 4-1 vote to accept funds for a, quote, socially equitable cannabis program last meeting is a boon to the addictive pot industry, the heavy hands of cartel and corporate involvement, and the uncontrollable black market. But in return, what do rural residents get? Increased risk of addiction, child ingestion, ER admissions, youth brain damage and dropout, mental health issues, psychosis, schizophrenia, homelessness, DUIs, crime, violence, death, lives ruined. All at a social cost 5 times any tax revenue expected. Thank you, Supervisor Desmond, for not caving to political pressure from an industry that has stopped all effective regulation of dangerous high-potency THC products, often with payoffs at state and local levels. The city's staff report stated outright this program's purpose is to develop a robust pot market in rural areas, something residents did not vote for. Why reward a few so-called victims and elevate the poorly regulated addiction for profit pot industry without regard for residents, victims, or potential victims? The report states there'll be no environmental impact. On the contrary, cultivation and pesticides can cause tremendous environmental hazards. Experts say non-biodegradable plastic vape waste has become the most serious hazardous waste issue today, and vape lithium-ion batteries are becoming an unsustainable e-waste problem. If you care about community health and welfare, you must better control the poorly regulated market you are contributing to.
Thank you. Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes the request for non-agenda public communication this morning. Again, all the remaining speakers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the approval of minute statements of proceedings for the regular meeting of January 23rd, 2024. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Clerk, can you please, actually, call the vote. Please vote.
Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Thank you. We'll now proceed with the formation of our consent calendar. Items 1 through 9, members of the public will be able to comment on the consent calendar after the supervisors pull items they would like for any discussion. Any of my colleagues like to pull anything for discussion? Supervisor Anderson?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Montgomery Stepp?
I don't believe I need to pull. I do need to amend item number 8. And so if it needs to be bifurcated, that's fine. But if not, then just amend it.
Okay. We can go ahead and do it on the dais.
Okay.
Do you want to make the recommendation now?
Yes, well, I will move the consent agenda, but I need to pull the appointment of Rakina Kamai from the Committee for Persons with Disabilities at this time.
Okay. Do you need that's all we need, right? Okay.
I'll second the motion with the amendment.
Okay. So Supervisor Desmond, do you have any comments? All right. Vice Chair Lawson-Weimer?
Nothing to pull, a couple comments? Yeah. So just on item number 1, I want to commend the work on this. We've been focused as a board on confronting the opioid epidemic, and that's been something we've worked very hard on over the last 3 years. And this item today, I think, is very important because it will expand our county's EMS approach and ability to effectively face the deadly opioid epidemic. So I just thank you for being creative and going out and getting these resources and taking the board direction on focusing on this crisis and running with it. So this is really important. And then item 6. Where's Susan? I don't know where Susan is. But anyway, Susan, wherever you are, thank you. This was great. I think you all did a good job of working with our partners and our workers and our county teams to create the Emergency Child and Older Adult Care Program. I think it's going to be a really important tool for folks that are facing crises of care, both for older adults and for their own children. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing this get implemented later this month. So thank you, Susan, and thank you to the whole team.
Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. One item that I just wanted to bring up is item number 5. It's an ordinance amending the compensation relating to the San Diego floods 2024. And I just want to thank our interim chief administrative officer for bringing this forward. This is a very important, urgent ordinance, particularly for those folks who have been directly impacted by the floods while still having to do their job here at the county and have done such an exceptional job. And so I want to say thank you for bringing that forward. And again, I want to say thank you to staff who has been exceptional in ensuring that we are helping those in need. So with that, we have a motion and a second with changes to item number 8. So I'll open it up to the public for public comments.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 27 requests to speak on items on the consent calendar, 7 in person and 20 requesting to speak by phone. Any members of the public that requested to speak on the items on the consent calendar by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers, starting with those in favor of the items on the consent calendar. As your name is called, please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals until it is your turn to speak. I'd like to invite forward Marla Ortega and Melissa Grace. If I've called your name, please come forward. They'll be followed by the speakers in opposition, Mark, Truth, Gambler, Bryant, Rumbaugh, and Consuelo. If I've called your name, you can please come forward. You may come forward in any order at this point. I'll ask you to please identify which items on the consent calendar you are speaking on. Again, keep your comments to the items on the consent calendar. Please state your name for the audio record. You will have 2 minutes.
All right, it's true. Shout out to my friends up there. All right, item 1 is $375,000 from the Public Health Institute to use opioid drug money from frivolous lawsuits to make EMS give out opioids to opioid addicts. The induction of drugs enables addiction, not stops it. On the radical Oakland-based Public Health Institute's website, they push masks, climate cold madness, abortion targeted towards black births, and they're partnered with the lying CDC. Item 2 is over $34 million for, quote, security guards that have grown from 150 to 600 with assignments at county sites serving as COVID storage, vaccination, or isolation, and during migrant assistance, end quote. Fun fact, one of the security guys out here once told me I should make jackets for a living. He liked the red jacket with the eye on the back. Summertime. Item 4, claims that an atmospheric river occurred rather than criminal negligence by the county and the city of San Diego, not clearing the culverts or repairing the pump stations. I'm curious if in the same vein, workers knowingly left construction areas unprotected for the storm in order to also get emergency checks. Item 5 is $500,000 for an extra 80 hours of paid leave for county workers who suffered storm damage to their properties, but will they have to provide proof of damage? Item 7, it'd make more sense if community planning groups wrote the conflict of interest codes for these supervisors instead. Item 8, no to Patricia Fernandez to the Child and Family Strengthening Advisory Board. She works for Google, Novartis, and Rockefeller-sponsored The Plenary Company, pushing socialist democracy and sustainability propaganda. No to Joseph Robinson if he worked for Pfizer Novartis. No to Felicia Shaw to the Arts and Culture Commission because she doesn't seem to have experience in actually making art and is too political, part of the Women's Democratic Club, and wants WPA-style socialism for artists. I don't want it. No to Louis Osuna to the county hearing officers. He went to extremist UC Berkeley and was South Area Vice Chair of the San Diego County Democratic Party. Former Sandbank Sharon Humphreys thinks she's special enough to be on flood control. I question that. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
All right, still Brian Rumbaugh. So I am also going to be talking about the opioid crisis. We certainly have a crisis that's we're all dealing with. You just go right out the street and you see the addicts. Have we learned about the opium wars by chance? Does anybody remember that? Does anybody remember the East India Trading Company? Does anybody remember really kind of the same play that's been played? You know, when we sit here, and me personally, here's a personal story. I had a cousin who's he's pretty much been battling drug addiction his entire life. There was a time when he lived with me, and he was on heroin. I grabbed him and I took his keys away, and I pretty much gave him a towel, 3 pillows, and a trash can to puke in. And I told him I was going to stop by during the course of my day. Within 21 days, he actually got off that. Now, unfortunately, he did relapse because we're dealing with societal problems here. Buprenorphine, I mean, who's going to be making a ton of money on that? Who is the Public Health Institute, another nonprofit? Is everything in our system right now for profit or not for profit? Is government for profit? Is it? I want to know. No, it's not. I hope so, Jim. I really hope so, because that's right now. I understand you guys are nothing but funding facilitators, as the populace has been out to lunch generationally. We've been very trusting. We've been educated in the system to understand, believe that it was left or right, it was this or that. They need to take the power back. You guys are a reflection of us. You're propping up a system that is literally going to be, it's in its death throes a little bit here. I mean, I'm going to be talking to you guys about plenty of things, and I'm not a dull tool in the shed, I can tell you that much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Gambler here. Well, apparently I'm not allowed to ask any more questions. If I do, you guys have threatened to file reports on me and all that stuff just for asking questions regarding the election. That being said, you guys want to be dead set on the fact that it can't be frauded, that someone cannot go around, collect thousands of ballots to remove someone out of office? By all means, you could think that all you want. I know, with a 96% acceptance rate, that anyone who wants to fraud the election can stay in that seat as long as they get people to collect ballots for them. If they put a number on there high enough, they will be willing to forge those ballots to make sure that those people get elected. So, I don't know what I could do to stop this from happening. One of the options is to literally collect like 20,000 ballots, fill them out, churn them in, and count the fact that the registrar of voters will count almost every single one of them. In that case, I could at least kick out Nora Vargas. I'm not too worried about Tara Larson-Lemur because I'm hoping that Kevin is going to go ahead and do that, and I'm not too worried about Joel because I believe that all the migration of homeless is in order to get him out of office. So that's one option. The other option is I could take a look through the legal fractions. I have plenty of records stating the fact that you guys refused to answer any of my questions dating back 4 years. So, we want to play that game? I have no problem. Absolutely, positively no problem doing any of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mark, on number one, the opioid crisis cannot possibly be addressed properly without securing the border. It's a joke to even pretend that you would or could. I've already told you that, and the great thing about what I'm trying to tell you is you could fund this under the name of affordable housing and get funding from the state or maybe the federal government. San Diego County is about 90 miles on the southern border. You could literally 3D print homes, 10 by 40 foot homes, and let either homeless people or low-income people live there, and they could have 20-foot high razor-sharp walls on the back with cameras and motion sensors. You could have up to 7 Border Patrol agents per mile that could contact 63 more Border Patrol agents immediately within a 5-mile radius that would all live there in some of the houses with their families. And it would kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And you could actually control the border, actually control it and secure it, and have the people we want coming in and no one that we don't. Or it would reduce it drastically, make it much easier to handle. We've paid for Israel to do this. It's absurd that we haven't secured our border a tenth as well as they have. Also on the flood, you guys are getting money now declaring an emergency measure, and of course that's good for your corporation and you can redesignate it, but why didn't you just keep the drains clear and make a good drainage system in the first place? Because you wanted the money. That's why. And, you know, and because you're spending our money on yourselves and your cronies instead of the city.
Next speaker, please. Final call for Consuelo, Marla Ortega, and Melissa Grace. Who have called your name, please come forward.
Consuelo, and I am speaking on 4. So I was told by Heidi, who Nora spoke with while we were in the elevator together after that ridiculous workshop at Sandug, if she said she ever received a call from you as promised by the county chair. No, she did not. As promised by you, she didn't receive anything, not from the county, not from your assistant, not from the city. I found it funny, though, in the elevator, you were really quick to throw it on Todd's lap. And then all of us, yeah, sister, I'm not a liar. I'm not a politician or a lawyer. Yes, you were like, well, she's Golden Hill. That's for Todd. And then all of a sudden, your tune changed for the emergency meeting. That was really weird. Anyways, what I can say is that here's the thing. We rely heavily on this local corporation instead of realizing they only do things to ensure they're compliant federally. Federal emergency funding whores who refuse to provide funding to the ones in need. Government will never be the answer. They create the chaos to appear as the heroes. If we want change in our county, country, and world, then stop acknowledging these perpetrators as leaders. Stop begging, start creating. This system is done, over, kaput.
Thank you. Now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you'll hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'll remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We'll start with our first caller.
Hi, my name is Nicole Bernstein, and I'm speaking on agenda item 8. I would like to respectfully request that this item be removed from the consent calendar to be voted on separately. I would also like to request that you all vote no to reinstate Taha Hassan to the Human Relations Commission. This commission was created after the Poway shooting in Chabad. Taha Hassan has published many horrific social media posts, many horrific speeches and sermons justifying and inciting violence, glorification of the rape, murder, genocide of men, women, and children. This is not someone who is qualified to sit on a human rights or Human Relations Commission, certainly not in the city of San Diego. Please remove this item from the consent calendar, vote separately, and vote no on Taha Hassan, the Human Relations Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
This is Jamie Fetter. I am speaking for two reasons. The first is a request to respectfully postpone the voting to reappoint Imam Taha Hassan to a later date so the community can be given enough time to respond. If the vote is not postponed, I implore the board to vote no on reappointment of Imam Taha Hassan to the HRC. He has been very clear that he feels the barbaric acts of October 7th were justified as acts of resistance. Don't believe me? Listen to his own sermons at the Islamic Center of San Diego. It's online and on his Instagram. In no way penetrating a woman against her will and then shooting her in the head while still inside her considered resistance. Burning innocent babies is not resistance. Sodomizing a teenage girl at a music festival and then parading her around with bloody pants is not resistance. Tying parents together and making them watch their children tortured is not resistance. Some may say this is hearsay. It is not. It is a proven fact, and it is vile and disgusting. Since October 7th, the imam has been justifying the massacre on innocent people. There is no justification. And to this day, Hamas is still holding almost 150 hostages, some of which are our own United States citizens. Both the imam and his lovely wife have been very clear that the October 7th attacks were justified. This is 2024 in the United States. We cannot have someone representing us who feels that treating any human like this is justified. As a female who also happens to be Jewish, I would not feel safe if he was reappointed. Do not vote to reappoint Imam Taha Hassan. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
My name is TC, and I'm speaking about item 8, esteemed supervisors. I'm asking that you please consider pulling the reappointment of Taha Hassan from the consent calendar and vote on it separately, and I ask that you deny that reappointment. Why? Someone who says the atrocities of October 7th was, quote, resistance, has no place on a Human Relations Commission. Not when more than 1,200 Israelis and foreign nationals were brutally murdered by terrorists. Terrorists that Hassan called, quote, martyrs, raped, beheaded, and burned alive innocent civilians, including Jews, Muslims, Druze, Christians, including Americans, Arabs, Thai, and Filipino, among many others, not to mention babies and the elderly, including Holocaust survivors. They also kidnapped more than 350 innocent civilians and still hold more than 130 of them hostage. Taha should not be a representative of the Muslim community on HRC. That community deserves someone who is not spreading hate and misinformation and sowing division. The Leon Williams Human Relations Commission was created after the anti-Semitic attack on the Poway Chabad with the intent to promote positive human relations, respect, and the integrity of every individual regardless of gender, religion, culture, or ethnicity. Taha is not capable of doing so. Please remove his reappointment from the consent calendar and vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Hello, my name is Alicia Schumann, and I'm calling regarding agenda item number 8. I speak today asking that Taha Hassan not be reappointed to the Human Relations Committee. This San Diego Human Relations Committee focuses on hate and discrimination in our San Diego community. Taha Hassan speaks publicly in the San Diego community supporting the violent hate crime committed on October 7th in Israel. He claims that this event by the terrorist organization Hamas was a resistance movement and was an acceptable consequence for the Israelis and the Jews. On October 7th, not just Jews were killed and kidnapped, many other religious backgrounds and international citizens. It is disgusting for Hamas's actions to be called a resistance movement. These actions of Hamas on October 7th were pure hate and evil. Innocent people, babies were murdered, beheaded, raped, burned, kidnapped. Body parts were cut off like trophies.
This is all documented. Nothing justifies these actions of Hamas. Taha preaches otherwise to the San Diego community, publicly causing more hate and discrimination. In addition, his wife, Lalala Alali, has been spreading hate throughout the Jewish community, publicly posting anti-Semitic photos on Facebook. We need peace-promoting leaders that will unite our San Diego community and not promote violence and hate. How can a man like this reside on the Human Relations Committee? I request that Taha Hussein's reappointment be postponed for a month to notify the Jewish community as well as other community members, or the items be pulled out from the consent calendar, or the reappointment for Taha Hussein should be denied. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Gabrielle Hazan. I have grave concerns regarding the appointment of Inman Taha Hazan to the Human Relations Committee. It deeply troubles me that such an individual is being concerned for a position of influence within this community. This is alarming. What deeply disturbed me is not only his rhetoric, but his active promotion of hate on social media platforms. Since October 7th, Taha has been justifying the October 7th massacre. He characterizes violence as a form of resistance, a stance that is fundamentally incompatible with the values of peace, coexistence that we cherish. His public acts of support and violence against innocent civilians, babies, children, and women cannot be overlooked. It is inconceivable to me that someone who openly justifies and supports such heinous acts could be entrusted within this community, let alone on a committee dedicated to promoting human relations. We deserve better, San Diego. We deserve leadership that upholds the principles of tolerance, acceptance, and respect. I implore you to reconsider the reappointment of Taha Hassan to the HRC. We cannot afford to have individuals in positions of power who promote hate, spread lies, and justify acts of violence. We need to work together to denounce anti-Semitism and all forms of hate. The consequences of allowing such an individual to sway within our community are severe. Pull this from the consent calendar and vote separately to deny his reappointment. We must ensure that those who represent us reflect strong values. San Diego deserves better. Let us stand together in rejecting hate and intolerance. Instead, strive to appoint an individual who upholds peace, tolerance, and unity. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Dan Petzker here. Dear Board of Supervisors, I am resident of San Diego County, District 2, and parent in San Diego School District. I learned that you are planning to reappoint Mohammed Hussein Taha to Human Relations Commission. I think it will be a disgrace to the Commission to have this individual there. This reappointment needs to be pulled out from consent calendar and denied. Human Relations Committee has a history of being a stage for spreading hate and anti-Semitism. Just last year, Commissioner Khalif Raoufi commented that Jewish Bible teaches Jews to kill Palestinians. As a result, County DA Stefan and County Sheriff Martinez resigned committee as a moral act against such anti-Semitic expression. On October 7th, brutal terrorist attack on Israel, where hundreds were murdered, kidnapped, raped, and their body mutilated. Right after it, Mr. Taha preached to his captive audience that this is acceptable, that this is justified and so-called resistance. Would you stand behind this individual who calls murder and sexual violence against teenage girls as a legitimate act of political resistance? People of San Diego would be appalled by your approval. You have a moral choice to do the right things to our city. Follow your morals like other county elected officials. Please reconsider and pull the item from the consent calendar and deny this appointment. Now, let me play Mr. Taha video so you can hear your human relations appointee in his own words.
Women rape, reparations, and all of it is being legitimized by calling it a resistance.
This is a result of the 75-plus years of brutal Zionist occupation of Palestine, and it is the result of the 16-plus years of the brutal barbaric blockade of Gaza. That's it. Point. Nothing
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Appointing someone who doesn't believe in human rights to the Human Rights Commission is a perfect example of why appointments do not belong on the consent calendar.
Can you
please remove them and put them back on discussion.
Can you please state your name?
Oh, Paula Bold. Sorry, I thought you knew me. The opioid grant is so that the EMS division of County Fire can get a supply of buprenorphine, which does what naloxone does, but a bit more slowly. Not sure why EMS, who transports people for long distances, is in charge of this. Apparently, buprenorphine takes about 20 to 30 minutes to take effect. Naloxone takes 2 to 5 minutes. Maybe the county doesn't really want to cure people until and if they make it to the hospital. Some of those EMS rides are pretty long. The emergency repairs don't seem finished. Scaffolding is still up, elevators unfinished. It sounds like it's just a play for getting more money. Employee leave, they certainly deserve leave to fix up their houses. I hope that part passes. Awarding a contract for security guard services, the board letter says over the last 4 years that the number of contract security guards has ballooned from 150 to 600 due to changes in business operations. For example, serving as COVID storage, vaccination, or isolation. So I hope the contract is for less than last year because there's no more COVID stuff.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Ala on the item agenda number 8.
Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ala G, and I will speak on the agenda item number 8. I can repeat what my predecessor said, but what I will say that Imam Tara Hassan failed his community. Instead of coming together and unite and support Jewish community after October 7th, he approved the terrorism that came on innocent people. And instead of promoting unity and support for Jewish community, he promoted hate and he divided the city of San Diego. His candidacy should not be on the ballot, and please do not appoint him as a representative for HRC. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Eve, thank you for this opportunity to speak. I asked you to pull item H8 from the consent calendar and vote on it separately. And then I asked you to vote no on the reappointment of Imam Taha. A Human Relations Commission cannot be taken seriously when sitting on it is an individual who does anything other than relate to people with humanity. As a human, as a Jew, as a woman, I'm horrified about what Imam Taha has said since October 7th before, including all of the lies and justifications. With this, he is showing his true colors. He called October 7th a massacre, a resistance. Murdering innocent men, women, and children is not resistance. Raping and brutalizing women, men, and kids is not resistance. Hamas still holds hostages. Hamas intends to do this again and again and again. Nothing justifies Hamas's actions. Taha thinks otherwise. Moreover, in December, he welcomed into his mosque, into his community, the leadership of American Muslims of Palestine, who in his speech proclaimed that this is the time to make Zionists feel very uncomfortable on campus and it is incumbent upon the Muslims to rule Palestine and to enforce the rules of Allah on earth. This from leadership of an organization that is under investigation by the federal government for links to Hamas. Imam Taha is not a true representative of the Muslim community. He is not a partner for human relations. He is the complete opposite. He does not represent the values of the Commission or the values of human relations. Therefore, again, please remove this item from the consent calendar and vote no. You can do better for the Commission and better for San Diego. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
David Michon. I'm here to speak in regards to the appointment of Mr. Taha and request that this item be removed from the agenda and be considered by the Commission in full. Mr. Taha has not proven to be a ethical or righteous leader for the community of San Diego, as he has supported the Hamas terrorist act against innocent residents. And we ask that you consider his appointment in a separate matter today. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Hello, my name is Alicia Shirley, and I'm speaking on item number 5. I'm a proud SEIU Local 221 member who has worked for the county for 13 years. I work in the Youth Probation Department. Recent storms have hit us and our communities hard. We have all seen the images and heard the stories. Unsurprisingly, it has been the poorest areas of San Diego and communities of color that have been hit the hardest. When we are worried about our families and all the damage, we can't give residents the level of service they deserve. That is why we are asking you to support this item, especially since many of us are still rebuilding our time off balances from frontline work during COVID. Please support item number 5.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Good morning, Board. My name is Kathleen Lippitt, and I'd like to address, as a public health practitioner, I'm an activist on behalf of protecting both the individual and the public. Please reconsider your harm reduction prioritization in your drug policies. The lesson learned that it was necessary to socially stigmatize cigarette smoking to reduce its use should be applied to marijuana and other products today. Smoking went from being banal and ubiquitous in the 50s to uncommon. It was one of the greatest achievements of public health. Clear public health messaging helped deglamorize smoking through anti-smoking advertising campaigns, including graphic portrayals of the health effects of cigarettes, relentless recitation of smoking deaths, and a clear message that smoking was not a smarter, better choice. Today, we face a similar challenge to counter the marijuana industry's campaign to normalize and promote their products as harmless and therapeutic, as Big Tobacco did. Unlike when public health officials joined anti-tobacco efforts on behalf of protecting the public, our public health officials are silent when it comes to marijuana. Addiction often drives criminal offenses, and many of these now go unpunished today. Mandated treatment for offenders with addiction problems would underscore societal disapproval while also helping those people and their families recover. Helping people who have fallen prey to powerful drugs is entirely compatible with a strong stigma against drug use. Stigmatizing the user is never appropriate or compassionate, but stigmatization of the use of that harmful drug is both.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Liza Thatcher. I'm here to vote no on the reappointment of Hassan to HRC. I'm here as a Catholic, but more so as an individual that believes in humanity. The Human Relations Committee is meant to address hate and discrimination, but Mr. Hassan's own actions and beliefs go against the very purpose of this committee. How can we expect him to effectively combat hate when he himself is promoting it? Taha's support for Hamas, a terrorist organization responsible for countless acts of violence and suffering, is deeply troubling. He fails to recognize the horrific acts committed by Hamas, including the kidnapping and hostage-taking of innocent civilians. His attempt to justify these actions as resistance is completely unjustifiable. Nothing justifies barbaric actions as rape, burning alive, and beheading. Allowing Taha to be reinstated without addressing these concerns would send a message that hate is acceptable within our community. It is crucial that we take a stand against such beliefs and actions and ensure that those in positions of influence and power are held accountable. I urge the County Board of Supervisors to reconsider Taha's suitability for this position altogether. We cannot afford to have someone with his beliefs and track record representing our community in a committee dedicated to combating hate and discrimination. Hassan's consistent vilification of Jews as terrorists and his incitement of congregants raises serious concerns of his good judgment and goes against the principles of compassion, understanding, and respect that should guide the work of a Human Relations Committee. It is essential that the members of such a committee demonstrate a true commitment to promoting harmony and inclusivity. Hassan's track record and rhetoric do not align with these principles, and his presence on the committee could undermine its credibility and effectiveness. We must remember that promoting human relations requires compassion and empathy for all individuals, irrespective of their background.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. I came to offer my support for consent item 1. It has to do with accepting $375,000 to assist our county's Office of Emergency Medical Services. And I understand it's to assist us all with the opioid use disorder, OUP. And the money will come to our county fire department for them to distribute to more help us solve and remove the stigma associated with drug use. I appreciate these comments. However, as a public health educator, I am gravely concerned that it does not address the source of these problems that could be better accomplished during childhood when our young people turn to drugs as solutions for their depression and their anxiety and their depression. And I'm so reminded of the very strong comment once made by statesman Frederick Douglass when he said, "It is far easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." Let us look more thoroughly at the money we're putting into prevention, see if it matches what we're putting into treatment. And if it doesn't, let's change that trend. Let's get to our problems sooner. And just as an aside, the County Office of Education is providing 5 webinars for parents and their caregivers over the next 5 months regarding how we can help youth mental health issues and the relationship of that to drug use, and I recommend it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
No to spending $375,000 for fire and EMS to peddle drugs and train them to do it.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Oh my gosh, you're taking my time, Andrew.
I paused your time. Please state your name. Thank you.
So, yeah, and you guys sit here and, what we should be doing is getting rid of Big Pharma, not using, the war on drugs to give people more drugs and then wonder why they're always on drugs and we're never doing anything to better their lives. and the security guard service at various 70 of the 70 county facilities. You're contracting with the sheriff. The sheriff already beats people up in meetings, so I don't think that it is safe for us to be spending any kind of money to be putting people in danger by these security guards when you're saying you're supposed to protect the public and employees and county assets when you have them abuse people brutally. And then, you know, just the manage of all public safety wireless comms. It's like, I mean, we have an invasion at our border going on. Everybody who took an oath to the Constitution is violating that, and it's treasonous under Article 3, Section 3 and Article 4, Section 4. And the storm damage to the infrastructure for this county admin building, you're probably going to fix that over having the people have their property fixed. You're going to make sure that you do that. And then, you know, you're going to compensate all these flood employees for 80 hours of paid leave when people are just suffering to even try and fix their lives and make sure that they can still afford to live after all of this has happened. So, I mean, that needs to go across to more people, not just your employees. And the fact that we have all of these Semites being anti-Semitic against other Semites for this item number 6 is crazy, but we do have a morally corrupt county and society. And if people understood that Israel is complicit in 9/11, you know, we don't need to be like hating one group over the other and acting like we're not doing that. That's what you guys are doing. You're being anti-Semitic. All of these people, it's crazy, and they're Semites too. Whatever. But you know, we're never going to have a good human relations committee or anything like that because there is no like morally inept people in the community that.
Thank you. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on the items in the consent calendar.
Thank you. Before we vote, I just want to make sure my conversation with the interim CAO and our folks regarding item number 5 is that we want to make sure that those 80 hours are extended for family members. So in case one of our county team members has a family member that got impacted, and if they have to go help them and clean them, that we are able to let them, take the time to do that. So I just want to make sure that I put that on the record so it is clear about that it's for personal use and to help those that need it the most. So with that, we can vote. I'm so sorry, Supervisor Desmond.
Well, I had a question just because we had so many callers on the reappointment of Mohammed Taha Hassani. If I'm pronouncing that correctly. So I have a question for staff. What kind of screening do we do of individuals? And then also, does the commission have the ability to vote up or down on our appointees?
Supervisor Desmond, I defer to County Council on whether the commissions have the opportunity for purposes of voting up and down, but there is a vetting process through Andrew Strong's office, but then also with the board offices.
What's Andrew Strong's office?
The Office of Equity and Racial Justice.
Okay, so they looked at this.
That's right.
Okay, all right, Council.
Thank you. So the Human Relations Commission does provide input on certain nominations to the Board of Supervisors. In addition, separately, the Board of Supervisors have their own appointments for the board that they independently make based on the assessment and based on input received.
So they do have some input, you're saying, on the appointments?
The Board of Supervisors can make their determination based on the application and information they receive, as well as any input from the Office of Equity and Racial Justice.
Okay. Well, I guess the hardest part, and I know we're not going to solve the Middle East conflict here today, but the hardest part, I think, of the Human Relations Committee is there's humans on it. And unfortunately, I'm all for diversity of ideas, but I don't know about, when you start to get the hate and other things like that, then it's a different story. I don't know, this isn't, it's Monica Montgomery Stepp's appointment. I don't know if you've got comments on this individual or...
I just want to address the procedural question that you had. Okay. Yes, we do have a process. We've had about 4 or 5 of these meetings that I've attended, and kind of we're developing that process through the last couple of months that I've been here. Interviewing various members of the community, members of the commission, also talking with staff quite a bit as we make these appointments and put them on the agenda.
Okay, well, I guess I'm uncomfortable and I know I seconded the motion, but I'm uncomfortable with the reappointment of Mr. Hassani with the public input that we heard. So I'm going to withdraw my second, and I think we need to revisit this one appointment. So.
I'll second.
Okay.
All right, with that, please vote. Oh, Supervisor Anderson?
I have a quick procedural question. I'd like to not vote on item 8, but vote for the rest. So I'm unfamiliar with how that works. So do I just announce it and then we vote and then it's done? Or what do I need to do?
Supervisor Anderson, as part of the record, you could note that you're abstaining from item 8, and we'll note that in the record.
Do I do that now? I'd like to abstain on item 8. Thank you.
I as well. Thank you.
Okay. So before we vote, I just want to say that, the Human Relations Commission was created as an opportunity to really bring together different ideas and perspectives so that folks could really identify some of the key issues impacting our region during a very difficult time. I have been very engaged in some of the challenges that the commission has had, including some of the appointees of some of my colleagues that are not voting today. And, folks had been asked to be, removed and resigned, and my colleagues were also very vocal about that. And so I just want to remind us that the purpose and the goal of the commission is to ensure that different perspectives and ideas are had. I know that they've contracted a consultant to help in that process so that they are able to engage and have the tools that they need to be able to have the tough discussions. But I want to encourage the commission to really be open and to think about the fact that words matter and the work that they're doing and how they're moving forward. For me, I think it's extremely important that we do have, this is the space where you can have conversations that are tough and courageous conversations, and sometimes we don't like what we hear, but this is exactly what the Human Relations Commission is supposed to be doing and why it is so diverse and so many perspectives are there. So I just want to make sure that I say that for the record, and supporting this item does not make me anti-Semitic. What it does is really, for me, it's important that all voices are at the table. So, Supervisor.
Yeah, I do think it's important to acknowledge that there has been a tremendous amount of challenges with this Human Relations Commission, not just this one. This is a big issue. There's been a lot of issues. I think we are going to need to do a pretty serious rethink about the HRC. I know we've all been talking about this, so I just want to put out there that there are some huge challenges. They've been ongoing. I don't think the HRC is functioning as we had sort of hoped and intended when it was created. We obviously need to have some guidelines on what kind of people and what kind of representation makes sense to have on a commission. So all of these are very centered for me as huge issues. I think there are individuals on the HRC, including some folks that are listed for appointment today, but also others who are not up for appointment today, who have said and done things that have been really troubling to me personally. But it's a systemic issue. It's a broader issue. It's not only a specific individual. It's a whole sort of structure of how this HRC is functioning. My understanding from in talking to folks who have been appointed to the HRC is that there's an intention to do some investigations of some various individuals. That's a conversation underway. So just wanted to share that. That might not be visible to people, but those conversations are happening. There are conversations about what kind of standards, what kind of expectations we need to have, how we enforce those standards, and potential investigations of people's activities and comments. So Again, I'm very much interested in working on a larger systemic reform of the HRC. There's no universe in which any kind of hate or intolerance of any kind it has a place on a commission that's about human relations. And I do think it's important to remind everyone that the HRC arose out of a response to the Poway synagogue bombings. And so tackling anti-Semitism in our community was one of the core reasons that the HRC was reconstituted. And it has to, in my view, remain a central concern and a central commitment. So all that is to say, I'm going to be moving forward today with this item, but not in any way because I don't acknowledge and foreground the tremendous issues and challenges that the HRC faces, but rather because we're working on a holistic response to those challenges.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Before I turn it over to the Supervisor Montgomery Steppe, I do want to emphasize, and I failed to say that HRC is actually working on updating their bylaws and also addressing some of the issues that are raised today. And like I said, they hired a consultant to come in and help. This is a volunteer organization, so I think there's some challenges there in terms of imposing and managing and how we work with them. And so I think they really do need the tools to be able to manage tough conversations. That's not easily done. And I want to thank Andrew Strong for really doing so much work with this commission and really trying to move it forward to do exactly what the Vice Chair said and what we're trying to accomplish, which is being able to come together and advance our communities. And so, Supervisor Montgomery Steppe.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted, since a couple of things have been said on the record, just want to say also for the record that I have not been aware of any investigations in particular with any name that I have put forward. So I want to make sure that in the event anything comes out at all, certainly we were not privy to any of that. Just want to make sure. I agree with Supervisor Desmond in that we cannot solve the conflict here. And I will just go back to what I have consistently said since October 7th is that I have since that time fully condemned the acts of Hamas. I have also recognized that there are some very long-standing issues with the conflict and that I'm praying every day for peace for every single man, woman, and child that is in danger right now. And so this is, sometimes the argument is presented as if we are supposed to, as human beings, make a dichotomous choice, one or the other. And I just think that we will continue to push the conversation and challenge ourselves to see every single person as a human being, no matter what their background is, understanding that the events of October 7th were really unspeakable and horrible. And so I just want to make sure, since this is my appointment, we had a vetting process that is clear to everyone. Also with the mention of any investigation, just want to make it clear from my perspective. Thank you, Chair.
When I spoke before, it was unprocessed, so thank you for recognizing me again. We have not served together, Supervisor, and I just wanted to let you know it's your right to appoint whoever you like. I'll never oppose your right to represent your district to the best of your ability, and that's why I'm staying. I'm not voting no. But on the flip side, I've had a lot of community meetings. A lot of my community brought this to my attention, and I have to represent them to the best of my ability, as you do with your district. So I just want to make sure you understand, and it's on record, because, you know, with the Brown Act, we all don't get to pal around outside of this room, and I want to make sure that you understand my difficult position. And I had an appointee that ultimately stepped down who had made some remarks that were inappropriate. And, you know, this is a very difficult job, trying to solve the world's problems on that board. But I just want to make sure you understood, because I don't want you to think that I'm voting without thought. So with that, I'm good. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Please vote.
Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye, noting for the record that item 8, Supervisor Anderson and Supervisor Desmond registered abstentions.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is item number 10. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the public, and then I'll present the item.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 9 requests to speak on item 10, 5 in person and 4 requesting to speak by phone. I'll also note for the record that we received 5 e-comments, 4 in favor, 1 neutral. Any members of the public that requested to speak on item 10 by phone, please dial in to the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. All the speakers are in opposition of this item. As your name is called, please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals until it is your turn to speak. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. I'd like to invite forward Mark, Truth, Bryant Rumbaugh, Consuelo, and Gambler. If I've called your name, please come forward. And you're welcome to come forward in any order. Again, please state your name for the record. Thank you.
All right, still Brian Rumbaugh. So I'm going to quick read it for myself and everybody. Authorize exploration of opportunities to enhance recreational spaces for underserved communities, envisioning a gateway to the Californias. I did read the item. What I can say is I definitely have issues with it when I say that. I did read how the COVID really allowed us to recognize that pretty much cooping people in led to essentially them not having access to outdoor activities. That's pretty much logic. Now, what I can tell with this binational thing that we're talking about here, right on the Tijuana River Valley border, really, I'm not really quite sure the objective there, okay? Because I have nothing but good things to say about the people of Baja California, but we need to understand that they are a separate nation. Now, right now, fiscally, we are so in arrears that we have a lot of American citizens that essentially are living in Rosarito and all those type places and commuting across the border. I understand that. NAFTA brought a lot of things. But are we as Americans doing the best job that we can to really facilitate improvement for Mexico? Do you think so? Does anybody think so? I certainly do not. What I can say is that America was very important. We provided them an opportunity to live under laws, a constitution. It's very true that that initial Mexican Constitution of Mexico, it did get recalled rather quickly. We are fortunate enough that ours has yet to be recalled. We really need to start setting an example. We need to take the money out of politics. We need to set an example for the world. It can be done. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Hey there, it's Truth. Some of them suggest that it's a developer's responsibility to pay for parks when it's actually government's job. Once again, I hear negligence from the derelicts of duty. This item references the National Recreation and Park Association, which has an equity library on their website that offers people offensive articles spewed, such as, quote, white fragility, why it's so hard for white people to talk about racism, and searching for whitopia, an improbable journey to the heart of white America, end quote. It's obvious that they are clearly suffering from paranoid delusions. But speaking of rural equity, why not invest in a park in a different area? Because there's a lot of areas that need parks. That actually sounds like we're neglecting underserved communities. I definitely disagree with this item claiming that the Tijuana River Valley Regional Park is the gateway to the state of California. I've never heard anyone ever say that. People are more likely to say Disneyland or the beach. I'd also argue we don't need to spend county taxpayer money on creating a political pet project called a regional binational landmark. But the agenda is admitted, quote, connecting this project to the regional Sandag plans, end quote. You want to talk about yet another clear Sandag conflict of interest. 2 chairs, same person, same agenda, both places. But who benefits is not Nora, and it's not the people of Mexico or the South Bay. In fact, it's never the people of the South Bay. It's to strengthen the lie of binationality in order to dissolve both American and Mexican identities, borders, and sovereignty, in order to turn Sandag into a binational association of governments, or supra-government, dictating over both countries and dissolving representation for all peoples. I've got nothing against a park, but it needs to be a strictly American park, and it needs to be paid for with money not set aside for a fraudulent pandemic in order to benefit an agenda of a Tijuana-San Diego world design capital that tramples on the sovereignty of 2 countries' worth of people.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mark, truth couldn't have been more correct, and Sandag is totally against everything American. Rosa Corey's video, if you put in Rosa Corey, part 1 on YouTube, and Corey is K-O-I-R-E, it'll bring up a longer title I held up earlier that'll show you what's going on with that. So building these parks in Otay Mesa, Nestor Community, and Tijuana River Valley. I just saw Imperial Beach's mayor, I think it was last night on the news, I wasn't trying to look for this, it just came up, and she was talking about how devastated their entire area is. The beaches have been closed every day, the whole year, and they're a beach community. And the pollution isn't just affecting people who go in the water now, it's affecting people just breathing, it's airborne. So if you, and Newsom, of course, it seems, won't declare this an emergency. The floods are an emergency, and they are. They absolutely are, and those people need help. But evidently, he won't declare this an emergency, so you guys aren't getting the funding you would like. That's, well, Newsom is, you know, a whole different topic. The guy is completely shouldn't be governor. He shouldn't be anywhere near government. He shouldn't be a janitor in the building. But, so, yeah, to build this without correcting the pollution is just going to harm the people using the park, many of them being children. It's absurd, and the problem is so bad, especially now with the flooding. I'm sure it's even worse than it ever was. So, what can I say? You guys need to, somebody's got to convince Newsom to declare it an emergency, and you guys need to fix this. Otherwise, you're just going to hurt people.
Next speaker, please.
Consuelo. So people are already getting sick because of the horrific smells coming from Tijuana. Put that money to great use. Update parks to a seriously underserved demographic. I'm speaking on behalf of General's mom, Krista. She has to drive all the way from Poway to have her son, who is severely disabled, be able to play on the playground in Mission Bay. If you preach equity, then do your jobs and make sure that every playground in our county has a place for our truly underserved demographic, the disabled/vaccine injured children. Not only disabled, but are severely disabled, and they need their own specific playground, you know, the rides and stuff. They need to be also not just for disabled, but severely. Reminder, our county loves receiving federal funds, our money, but they rarely do what's right with that funding. Happy Black History Month. Slavery never ended. Reminder, the perfect dictatorship would have the appearance of a democracy, but would basically be a prison without walls, in which the prisoners would not even dream about escaping. It would essentially be a system of slavery where through consumption and entertainment, the slaves would love their servitudes. Wake up, humanity.
Next speaker, please.
How are you guys doing? Gambler here. I was going to go ahead and cut out, but a few people watching this for the first time had a few comments that I wanted to share with you guys. They're curious on why none of you guys seem to be paying attention to what we have to say. They're curious why you guys are all playing on your phones. This is the first time that they get to experience government at work. And what they're seeing right now is how none of you give a rat's ass what the people have to say. You are going to pass the notions without even paying attention to what we have, all our complaints. Look, you're still paying attention to your phone more than you're paying attention to the people actually trying to talk to you. We take time out of our day to go ahead and express how we feel. You guys don't give a shit. Matter of fact, if we bug you about it, you'll look for legal precautions to try to throw that person in jail. Ain't that right, Claudia? That is what you are currently trying to do with me. Will it work? I have no idea. Most likely you will probably end up eventually arresting me. Then we could go ahead and settle this through court. But seriously, these kids are paying attention to you guys and seeing that you guys don't care about us at all. They're wondering why all these people are coming over here begging you guys for help and you're not paying attention. This is an example that you are leading to these people up in the thing that you've been paying attention to, that you've seen. Please lead by example and show them that you guys do care for us instead of your own agendas, instead of the ACLU agendas. Please. Be better for them.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone. We'll start with our first caller.
Paul LeBold. Why are we exploring opportunities to develop the Tijuana Valley when there are such huge pollution problems? It's like, come play and hike in the TJ River Valley Regional Park watershed. And if you find any garbage, I hope you clean it up for us and don't get sick. There are two major sewage treatment facilities, two, that are leaking untreated waste. International Border Plant on our side and the one in Tijuana. And then there's the problem of illegal immigrants periodically invading our country. Of course, we want parks that are safe and welcoming, but until immigrants and sewage problems are resolved, you will not be able to create a nearby high-quality park and recreation resources that is safe, welcoming, or inclusive. A good place to hide out, though. You mentioned the end of COVID restrictions. ARPA funds are for COVID. You just made a case that this is not for COVID, so the funding is dead, too. Please don't waste Sarah's time on this when there are so many other priorities for the county, like disaster planning and recovery. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
My person uses the name Audra. The fact that you guys are calling this a gateway to the Californias, of course, it's going to incentivize more people to cross the border illegally, but you want to incentivize developers to invest in parks and low income, and you're using the COVID-19 funds because you're saying that COVID-19 indoor closures led to more outdoor activities. That's your guys' fault, and so you want, because you closed everything down, but now you want to pretend that that's going to be a reason to use these funds. And Joel, if you pass this and agree with it, because you were already talking at Sandag about the World Capitol Design Center and how the smell is so outrageous that it is something that you need to think about. So why would you put people's health at risk for putting a park in this area, especially for the underserved? You're actually doing a disservice to them and putting them in harm's way by pretending to offer them a park in a place where it is totally toxic, not only to the environment, but to their health. So, you know, and you shouldn't be bringing these things forward from Sandag, nor that is a conflict of interest because you're on that board. You guys commingle all of this stuff so that you can push your agenda. And Sandag isn't doing anything good. They're doing everything to keep us out of our cars and totally enslave the people, just like you guys are. But all you care about is money coming from the border and all of that. You don't really care about the safety of our community by letting just 1 million people in, and you don't care about the safety by, you know, not addressing this, but wanting to put a park there. So you guys need to do better by the people. If you're sitting here talking about them being underserved and then you're underserving them by doing this, you need to rechange and turn around from what you're doing, because you're actually putting people in harm's way all the time. And you don't care about the people, because if you did, you wouldn't do this. So, Joel, it will be very telling if you put this through when you were already complaining about the concerns of that at Sandag. So I'm sure you will vote this through, because you guys are all on the same agenda and all of you are of the same cloth. None of you are any different. It's just very sad that the people thank you for doing things like this, and thank you for actually doing a disservice to them, because that's...
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Good morning. My name is Sandy Muskowski, and I'm a resident of Chairwoman Vargas District. I love you, Chairwoman Varga. I have lived adjacent and in downtown San Diego for over 12 years now. 4 of those years I lived in homelessness until I got housing. Witnessing the gentrification of downtown into empty luxury lofts and Airbnbs, with community spaces being locked behind gates and adjacent green spaces patrolled by security to sweep away people living in poverty and homelessness and exclude us from our communities. While at the convention center shelter during COVID, all of the benches along the marina were removed to prevent those of us living homeless from using that space. With poverty and homelessness ever increasing in downtown and throughout San Diego County, criminalization has further polarized our central neighborhoods and marginalized populations, the majority being Black and Latino, many of whom were San Diego-born Latinos who struggled to gain legal status. This isolates us into enclaves of poverty with nowhere to rest outside. This emphasizes the need for more community spaces to bridge all of our communities together for all San Diegans throughout the county. Thank you for this inventive measure, and please remember the thousands of us living in poverty and homelessness in downtown East Village and Barrio Logan without a community space. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you. So I just want to ask my colleagues, I want to tell you a little bit more about this, because I don't know that the board letter actually gives it the essence of what I'm imagining for this community. I think if you listen to all of the folks who are opposed to this, you would think, you know, it continues to really emphasize all of the, you know, first of all, myths, misinformation, and negativity that South County for decades has had to hear from folks who don't know the area and don't understand the beauty of our communities. And for years, you know, I think all of you have heard me say before, right, that I was the staff member for the congressman when we opened up the sewage plant down in that area, and have been working on this issue for over, you know, decades. And so when I became a supervisor, the first thing I did was declare the Tijuana River Valley and that community, that area, a public health care crisis, and then declared it an emergency. And it continues to be my priority, because the health and well-being of our communities, number one, is critical and important for me. And number two, also, our communities deserve to be able to swim in our beaches, and it impacts, you know, the region as a whole. And so I've been really doing as much as I can to think about what this region looks like and how we, you know, after we have underinvested in these communities for decades, what can we do to have a big vision of what it can be, and what the promise of really bringing, you know, partnerships with community, government, and entities that really care about these regions, how we can really transform what this looks like. It shouldn't just be north of the 8 where we're thinking about parks and opportunities for our kids to be able to play soccer. For all those of you that may not know, kids who live in South County have to go miles and miles to be able to play in their tournaments for soccer or, you know, baseball, right? I think you all heard me when I was here, and I told you that when I became a supervisor and I went to the Little League the first time, the parents told me and the kids that they didn't have bathrooms, like bathrooms in our county park. They had to go to the AM, PM. And so we were able, as a county, to provide bathrooms for these kids who should have bathrooms, because if you go north of the 8, there's bathrooms in every site. So I can go on and tell you about sort of the deficiencies, but I want to tell you about the opportunities and the beauty and the promise that I see in this region. And all of you, my colleagues before Supervisor Montgomery Stepp was here, approved in December of 2022, us being able to take the 70 acres of land that we have and that we own as a county to redevelop it and really think about what that can look like in the future. And so as we've been looking and transforming and trying to think about what that looks like, I started seeing from a different lens. In order for us to really address the Tijuana River Valley from a different perspective, and knowing that we already have a campground there, the Tijuana River Valley Campground, that actually is used a lot. And if you haven't been there, it's actually pretty cool. And so for those of you that have been misinformed, you should know that our public health folks have gone out there and have tested, and there is no sewage in that area. So I just want to make sure, because sometimes people say things that they don't really have information for. And so I say all this to you because I think that our communities have endured water and air pollution, and they have, have for many years have shortages of recreational facilities. And so for me, to me, this is an opportunity for us to focus on the promise of the region to serve the needs of our communities. And why I'm calling it the Gateway to the Californias is because that is what San Isidro, Otay Mesa, Imperial Beach, the communities that I so proudly represent are. We are integrated as a binational region, and it's a positive thing. It's not a negative thing, and I'm so proud to be binational, to be able to be the person that represents this community. We already have a bikeway. All right, this is your first warning. You're disrupting the meeting, and I'm not gonna let you do your nonsense. So the Gateway to the Californias is more than just a park. It really is an opportunity for us to have a binational unity and cooperation. And so I'm excited about what this means. The community is excited. We have a lot of letters of support for good reason. A lot of people don't want to come to our meetings because, it is what it is. But I want you to know that there's board letters, and people have been excited, and they're excited because somebody's actually looking at the opportunity and the promise of what that region can be. The one thing I want to make sure that I'm very clear with my colleagues is that you are not voting for any funding on this issue. I was excited when we wrote the letter and we mentioned that I addressed the memo that I wrote to the CIO around the fact that this is one of my priorities, and I'm going to be looking to find additional dollars for it with community and organizations to really continue to expand and beautify this region. So with that, I would like to make a motion and ask my colleagues to support this opportunity to really envision a gateway to the Californias. All right, Supervisor Desmond?
Well, thank you, Chair. I guess I'm confused in the item here, and it's, I'm not opposed to your park or your opportunity or your vision for this park, but your recommendation number 2 asks staff to look at your ARPA memo, which at our last meeting on the remaining ARPA dollars, each of our offices, we agreed to submit a memo to staff outlining our district funding priorities. And so this item just asks staff essentially to evaluate your memo in item 2. So, and I believe staff's already doing this, but it really, recommendation 2 says, I'm confused because it says review review your memo. Well, they're reviewing all of our memos and all of our priorities at this time. So I'd have less of an issue with this. I'm going to vote in favor of it, but I have less of an issue if this was directed to evaluate each memo, as we're already doing that, instead of taking this as an opportunity to pitch one of your ideas on yours. I haven't seen your memo, but I'm going to support the item, but I don't even think it's necessary because I think staff's already doing this.
Yeah, I think
that item.
What I was doing is letting them know that it's sort of addressing that this is what I was talking about. So if you look at the memos, and those memos are public, I put in there, gateway to the Californias, this is how much money I'm asking for it. So so when they're reviewing the memos, I want them to be able to understand that this is what I was talking about in the gateway to Californias, since the memo doesn't have the whole description about what the gateway to the California is. But that was it. I'm not trying to get any preference.
Well, doing I don't know, it's, I understood it was going to be coming back, and we were kind of waiting for the opportunity to come back.
It's all coming back, and it doesn't prioritize.
And I'm, like I said, I'm in favor of it, but they're already reviewing all of our memos. And,
yeah. So just for ACIO, can I just clarify?
Privately, I'm actually doing that explaining with staff yesterday. I did that of kind of the things that were in ours and why it was important. But all right, so thank you.
Mm-hmm. Supervisor Montgomery Stepp.
Thank you, Chair. I will second your motion. Thank you for your leadership on this. I do have a question about a potential partnership and potential funding. Don't know if you are engaging the San Diego Tijuana 2024, I don't know if I guess it's 2024, World Design Capital designation. Is there a part of these conversations?
Yes, actually, this idea really flourished in conversations with them. Because of what I saw that, some of the initiatives that they did in Korea and other places where they bring people together, and the beauty of art and nature and culture. And so it was super exciting to be able to talk to them. And they also sent a letter of support that you all should have received. But yes, absolutely working with them on this initiative.
Okay, thank you very much.
First of all, I just love the idea of having more recreation space. I think it's really important. And I also appreciate one of the things I think you consistently bring to our board is looking for partnerships, looking for other people to work together. So I think that's great. And it's unfortunate that we all need to vote to make this happen because it should happen anyway. So happy to support it. Very excited. And I do I think want to echo just to make sure my understanding is correct, that what we're really doing is moving forward on these partnerships. The piece about the funding is, we're all going to be looking at all these memos, and that's sort of was just reiterating something already happening. But the real point of action here is how do we go find some partners to work on this and collaborate with this and make this happen. So again, I think it's really exciting and happy to support it.
With that, please vote.
Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We're now going to move to discussion item number 11, sustainable planning for the future long-term state and federally funded migrant transfer sites and respite shelters for the San Diego region to address street releases. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the public, and then my colleague and I can present this.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 13 requests to speak on this item, 5 in person, 8 requesting to speak by phone. Also note that we received 10 e-comments, 9 in favor, 1 in opposition. Any members of the public that requested to speak on item 11 by phone, please dial in to the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. All speakers are in opposition. As your name is called, please come forward. I'd like to invite Mark, Truth, Bryant Rumbaugh, Consuelo, and Michael Brando. I'll ask you to please state your name for the audio record. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board.
All right, still Bryant Rumbaugh. So I know Jim just had to leave the room for a moment. So more or less, here we are again, long-term federally funded migrant transfer sites. Last time I was up here 2 weeks ago, I did talk to you about that economic roundtable that occurred. It was a video about 17 days ago. I just want to let everybody know that actually Jerome Powell is the name of the Federal Reserve chair for our country. They're essentially the private entity that prints money and then loans it to our government and then collects interest on it, okay? He actually says that in America right now, fiscally unsustainable are policies. Okay, it really flies in the face of what that woman said 2.5 weeks ago. Okay, as I'm sitting here looking at this item, I'm reading about how the San Diego Catholic Church diocese is the ones who are the fiscal agent. I understand I have nothing against Catholics. I was raised Catholic. What I can say is that you look into that Bank of the Vatican, you'll see money laundering to the nth degree. It's the cold, hard truth. We need to understand these people that are these financial guys. There's no, you know, you look at the Bank of International Settlements. Does everybody know what that is? That's the central bank's bank, based out of Switzerland. They're the Knights Templar, okay? That's the truth. We as Americans need to really recognize the situation that we're in. We need to choose a direction moving forward. I can only implore, you know, I'm sitting here asking Jim for help. The other people don't want.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
These are titles. My name's Mark. These are titles of articles you should see. I'm not against migrants. The U.S. cannot take all the world's poor, and 36.5 million legal immigrants over 20 years will destroy our country. ICE's enforcement and removal operations conducted a nationwide crackdown that ran from January 16th to the 28th. Authorities have arrested 171 immigrants who they say were in the country illegally and are facing pending charges or convictions for crimes including murder and assault against children, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement announced Thursday. The arrests included 53-year-old Salvadorian citizen in Tacoma, Washington, who was convicted of a felony child molestation in the first degree, child molestation in the second degree, and rape of a child in the third degree. Nora Vargas, this child might have been safe if you had done your duty. Long ago, I asked you to 3D print a solid row of 10 by 40-foot homes all the way across San Diego's southern borders, securing it and providing low-income housing for 11,880 homeless citizens for about $100 million in 2 years. Make 2/3 of the rent free instead of taxpayer subsidized. For a little more, you could print the back wall 20 feet high with a razor-sharp top and bulletproof 2-inch steel in the back with cheap motion sensors and cameras to alert our Border Patrol. 7 Border Patrol agents per mile could be housed with their families and quickly dispatch 63 more agents within a 5-mile radius or call the military. Nor are you entrusted with our people's safety. I told you such crimes would occur if Newsom, supervisors, and council did nothing. And now it's too late for these kids. Governor Abbott is securing Texas, and many can still be saved if you secure our border and house the homeless. There will be more felony crimes if you don't act immediately. ICE reported that additional apprehensions include these citizens of Mexico. Cartels, there's some, see these titles here. Cartels are earning more here now instead of Texas.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
All right, it's true. This item says, quote, our region has been impacted by the crisis at our international border, end quote. Joel and Nora, who's scared, that's why she's not here. Do you guys realize we have more than one international border? Hello? Did you forget Canada, where the mayor of New York stole my idea of sending the flood to? Consider this hypocrisy. We Americans have biometrics demanded of us, from RNA shots to background checks for jobs to thumbprints just to drive. While someone who crosses our country's southern border illegally can just break in, get food, clothes, hotels, healthcare, transit, tech, toys, childcare, houses, airfare, and everything else possible on the American taxpayer dime. This is criminal, long-term state and federal government funding for the long-term criminal street releases. How many more millions and millions of American money will go to help people not from this country when we have people right here who don't even have homes anymore from the storm damage that only happened because people in this local government failed to take care of the channels that local Americans right here asked to be cleaned for decades? But you know, I'd love to see what asylum people are seeking from persecution in their home countries when most interviewed say they're coming for jobs. This is big corporations importing their new workforce because Americans stopped working after the lockdowns youth supervisors implemented. And the NGOs assisting in this operation are the modern-day human trafficking coyotes. The Catholic Charities Diocese, Jewish Family Services, and SBCS are three of the change agents making a killing off of killing our country. This is from 60 Minutes.
San Diego County paid $6 million to set up this migrant center. More than 600 people a day have come through. Kathy Lembo is the president of South Bay Community Services.
Who's paying for the bus ticket? Who's paying for
the
airline?
counties of San Diego, we have to take the cash, and then what we do is we put it on our organization's charge card. We've become a money exchange.
This is all fraud, big money.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Final call for Consuelo and Michael Brando.
Something up, okay? I'm so sorry. She's not here, that's okay.
Consuelo, I'm going to start your time, please.
Okay. Okay. Just to reiterate.
All right, it's true. This item says, quote, our region has been impacted by the crisis at our international border, end quote. Joel and Nora, who's scared, that's why she's not here. Do you guys realize we have more than one international border? Hello? Did you forget Canada, where the mayor of New York stole my idea of sending the flood to? Consider this hypocrisy. We Americans have biometrics demanded of us, from RNA shots to background checks for jobs to thumbprints just to drive. While someone who crosses our country's southern border illegally can just break in, get food, clothes, hotels, healthcare, transit, tech, toys, childcare, houses, airfare, and everything else possible on the American taxpayer dime. This is criminal, long-term state and federal government funding for the long-term criminal street releases. How many more millions and millions of American money will go to help people not from this country when we have people right here who don't even have homes anymore from the storm damage that only happened because people in this local government failed to take care of the channels that local Americans right here asked to be cleaned for decades? But you know, I'd love to see what asylum people are seeking from persecution in their home countries when most interviewed say they're coming for jobs. This is big corporations importing their new workforce because Americans stopped working after the lockdowns youth supervisors implemented. And the NGOs assisting in this operation are the modern-day human trafficking coyotes. The Catholic Charities Diocese, Jewish Family Services, and SBCS are three of the change agents making a killing off of killing our country. This is from 60 Minutes.
San Diego County paid $6 million to set up this migrant center. More than 600 people a day have come through. Kathy Lembo is the president of South Bay Community Services.
Who's paying for the bus ticket? Who's paying for the airline?
Thank you. Your time is up. Now we'll hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone.
Pam. Number 11, no. Some members of this Board of Supervisors are facilitating the humanitarian crisis by the Biden administration. The NGOs also facilitate this crisis, drooling for the money the county gives them. Just because Catholic or Jewish is in the title doesn't assure the NGO cares about people or even God. These folks are not all asylum-seeking migrants and refugees, but all are crossing the border illegally. The majority of these folks are not a huge part of the economic engine that keeps the economy strong, as this agenda item claims. The current situation is a financial burden on the economy with potential to drain this county's resources for American citizens, legal residents, and especially our veterans. This agenda item also claims these folks bring rich cultural diversity to the region. Stop already. This is not currently happening. There are no beneficial contributions from these folks. Along with draining our resources, folks is diluting our culture, our traditions, and our country. Many of these folks come with nefarious intent. Just look at the news on a daily basis. Sanctuary cities, counties, and this state are destroying cities, counties, and this state. The Biden admin lost track of at least 87,000 immigrant children, probably more by now. Interesting, children are never mentioned in these immigrant agenda items. Can this board or NGOs find and save these people? Can you stop the trafficking of these children? No. I would prefer money go towards these missing children than to the adult illegals invading our country. This situation will not end well. This is insanity and is suicide for this county, and I pray it is not suicide for America. An illegal immigrant breaking into this country doesn't make him a citizen, just as a criminal who breaks into a home doesn't make him part of the family. This is a big no.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Good morning, Chairwoman Vargas and Honorable Supervisors. My name is Dion Akers, calling on behalf of San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria to express our support for item 11. We're grateful for the county's recent allocation of $6 million in funding to help ensure our community partners are able to continue providing asylum seekers with essential services and assistance needed to facilitate their onward movement beyond San Diego County. However, this one-time funding support is not sustainable and will soon be exhausted while the crisis of asylum seekers come into our community and the needs of our community-based organizations serving these migrants will continue for the foreseeable future. Because of this reality, it's imperative that the County of San Diego develop a long-term strategy that incorporates an all-of-government approach to address this crisis, including the possibility of long-term federal assistance. The City of San Diego has and will continue to advocate for funding to address the humanitarian needs of asylees and common-sense immigration reform at the federal level. Developing a complete strategy that seeks to leverage our existing network of CBOs with legislative advocacy and philanthropic commitment is a vital step forward. Thank you for considering this item to establish both an immediate short-term and long-term plan, which will allow our region to efficiently manage the resources available to address the unprecedented number of migrants passing through San Diego County. I urge the Board of Supervisors to support this item, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Paul Bold. The board letter says, we have been in search of additional funding streams to support the work of the transfer site, including seeking federal funds. The funds approved by the board on October 10th, 2023 and December 5th, 2023 will be exhausted by March. Well, too bad. We granted funds for an emergency. The feds should be funding this, not us. Our tax dollars are not a subsidy for the feds. This is what we need. A solution at the federal level and funding at the federal level. Or I'm sure we could join Governor Abbott in Texas with his creative solutions. But again, our tax dollars are not a subsidy for the feds. I'm surprised that this letter still calls for long-term planning. After at least a year that the board has been aware of this problem, there should already be a plan in place. Again, MSN.com might offer free ideas and advice instead of all this study wasting more of our money. And thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Good morning. My name is Kate Clark. I'm the Senior Director of Immigration Services at Jewish Family Services San Diego and a member of the San Diego Rapid Response Network Steering Committee. The San Diego region has a responsibility as a binational border community to welcome those coming to our community who are seeking asylum as they travel on to their final destinations and networks of care throughout the United States. Despite being the responsibility of the federal government, the role of assisting people seeking asylum has been triaged by San Diego's NGOs for the past several years. Local government must step up to support long-term sustainable planning for our region's migrant respite shelter infrastructure to be maintained and expanded. The San Diego County Board of Supervisors has declared multiple times that there is an urgent humanitarian need in our region to assist people seeking asylum at our southern border, and more collaboration, planning, and funding are required to meet this need. To that end, Jewish Family Service of San Diego, as the operator of the SDRN migrant shelter, supports the San Diego County Board of Supervisors in helping advance mid- and long-term planning to ensure necessary resources and infrastructure exist to support NGOs providing critical respite assistance. The county's recent investment of $6 million is welcomed, and importantly, the county must continue its investment in the form of allocating financial resources to address the multitude of humanitarian needs in our region. Funding and collaboration is critical at all levels of government and community support. This includes philanthropy in all private sectors. It takes all of us to do this work.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
My person uses the name Audra. This is aiding and abetting trafficking. You guys are abrogating your oath. You took an oath to uphold the Constitution, and in the Constitution it says that we will protect our borders against all enemies. So you are that's treason under that, under Article 3, Section 3, like I told you guys before. Legal immigration is being halted because of this. So these people are not seeking asylum, maybe, one or two here or there, but what is happening is children are even coming alone, unaccompanied. So you're facilitating all of this, and for these children to possibly have their organs harvested, to be sexually assaulted, raped, who knows what, become a sex slave to somebody, or just become a worker in some other, factory here. This is very sad because you want to talk even about having fentanyl be stopped, but we're facilitating the trafficking of that. And all while the people here in the community are suffering, they don't even get any help, but these people will get free travel, free money, a phone, sex change, health care. They can vote, they can join the military or the law enforcement. And when we have people that are sitting here saying that they should be able to join the law enforcement or the military if we don't have people in our own communities that want to do it, is terrifying, because America has had their hands in everybody and anybody's business that they can, and these people are not set out to protect America at all costs like the people that live here do. And we're sitting here and we're paying for all of this stuff. None of our money should go to any of this. These people work very hard not to be having the money that they work for be spent on trafficking, although you guys want to sit there and act like this is migrants that are coming across and they need to seek asylum. That's bullshit. You guys are totally feeding the people a bunch of propaganda to act like what you're doing is okay when you should be protecting our borders. And it will be your fault when something happens, when a sleeper cell wakes up and does something to the people in the community, because we're going to have to pay for their defense at that point, right? So if someone's kid gets murdered, we pay for the defense of that criminal, all while that person and their family has to go and try and get it themselves in some other way and see. Maybe they'll have them, maybe they won't.
Thank you. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on this item.
Before I begin our discussion, I just want to remind folks that it is important to follow the guidelines and do not disrupt the meeting because you will be warned. So item number 11 really is an opportunity, and I really appreciate Supervisor Anderson leading some of the efforts on this work, because we really, what we're doing here is asking the interim CAO to really work with partners and really think about how else could we identify funding and matching philanthropic dollars to really continue to operate not only the transition center, but then work closely with the folks who have been doing this work for so many years now, well, 5 years. And I remember the call, and I've said this before, right, when the rapid response team was created, and the amount of challenges that it has created for nonprofits that were not set up to do this, to have to figure out what to do with the numerous folks who were being released in our streets, and the impact that that had on our communities. And so I think it's really important to emphasize that we'll continue to advocate, and this is part of our legislative package to make sure that the federal government understands that not only do we need to continue to get additional dollars, but to support, and they already support some of these initiatives through the Catholic Charities and Jewish Family Services, but also we need to think about what the long-term permanent transfer site will look like as we really work to prevent street releases and provide essential services for those families and children and communities that are impacted. So absolutely we'll continue to work on the comprehensive state and federally funded plan for permanent migrant center, because I do believe that we can pretend that this is not happening. It is happening, and we need to make sure that we do everything we can so we're thinking about this in a sustainable way and really work together to do this. And so this particular board letter is very clear in that it really does two things. It directs the Chief Administrative Officer to really work with the current fiscal agent of the region's Federal Shelter and Service Program, SSP, which that's how a lot of the funding comes down, and then the federal government, and really return to the board in 30 days to give us some of the options that are available for funding streams in the region, and then also asking for to develop the concept paper and advocacy plan to seek long-term state and federal funding. So there's short-term and long-term planning, and I think we have a responsibility to do that as we are moving forward. So with that, I would like to make a motion to support item 11. Supervisor Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I want to thank you for all your hard work and the work your office has done. I think for a lot of folks, this is a difficult issue because they're looking at border policy. We don't set border policy. You know, I jokingly say bills I voted against are now laws that I have to implement in ways that least harm my district. And that 60 Minutes has done 2 episodes on this. And I just looked at some of our numbers, and from September, over 80,000 people have been processed through our processing center. And 99% of them have moved on to locations where they have family and friends who have welcomed them. The concern and why this is so important is the numbers are so great, the Border Patrol cannot keep up with them. While Jewish Family Services and Catholic Charities do an incredible job to house these folks and help them, we've exceeded their capacities. And as a result, we ended up with street releases. Those street releases, those 80,000 people may have been released in my district. And what concerns me is when you release somebody who's more than 30 miles away from the airport, and their next stop is the airport, and there may or may not be public transportation to that airport. We can pay now or we can pay later. And when we pay later, they're going to be homeless, they're going to be in our community, may or may not speak English, may or may not have money, and that creates all sorts of havoc in my district. The first thing is there are some criminal elements that like to prey on people who don't speak English, who are on the streets, who have been dropped off at 3, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 in the morning, and they're there alone, perhaps frightened, trying to navigate. So that's why I've been so supportive of this, because the burden on our communities in allowing people to come across the border and prey on them because we didn't properly welcome them in a way that got them where they need to go, all within, you know, people love to say legal, illegal. No matter how you want to quantify it, the Border Patrol are dropping them off in our community. It's not Uber, it's the Border Patrol. And they have to do what they're ordered to do. I'm not making a judgment on them. But my job is to make sure that my communities don't suffer and that they're not the brunt of poor federal policies. So again, I want to thank the chair for being so supportive. I think this is a step in the right direction of looking at who can help us through this predicament. I don't want to see anybody coming across the border suffer or be preyed on or become victimized. And I don't want our communities to be victimized with federally sponsored homelessness. So I'm full support moving this forward. I want to thank our team here at the county for doing an outstanding job. I want to thank all the organizations that have been supportive. We've got a lot of letters of support. The only question I'd like to add, and it came after the fact, so the board letter, I don't believe, fully covers it. And that is, I'd like for the staff, and by the way, if you disagree, please chime in, but I'd like the staff to look at not just the large organizations, the large NGOs that help us, but look at some of the smaller NGOs and how we can better utilize them. I think often when we're looking at problems that are 80,000 people growing, we think in terms of Catholic Charities and Jewish Family Services, who do an incredible job. But there are other organizations out there in the community who are doing a great job too. and sometimes their voice may not be heard, and they may have some additional solutions that would help us do our job. So I would just ask verbally that staff look at that as we move forward. And with that, I'd like to second the motion.
Thank you. And happy to support that. And I think one of the things that's important about this discussion is that Jewish Family Services and Catholic Charities do work with a lot of the smaller organizations that are on the ground doing this work. And so I think together they can come up with different ideas and initiatives. But thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Desmond?
Thank you, Chair. And first of all, I want to thank all the nonprofits who have been working the long days and nights at these sites. The work they're doing is critical, but I just don't think the county should be funding it. This is a federal issue. So I appreciate this board letter coming forward to look for other resources to pay for the crisis that the federal government has basically just laid in our laps here in San Diego County. So I am going to be supportive of this. But it's the numbers, even the 80,000 numbers that we have had street releases, doesn't count even all of those that came through Jewish Family Services or the Catholic Charities. And again, we appreciate their work. It doesn't count them at all. So, and the people that maybe didn't come through the Border Patrol to get to San Diego County. So the numbers are probably much higher. And it's a crisis that we just can't sustain with local taxpayer dollars here. So I appreciate the effort to go out and trying to get the federal government or consolidate with other agencies to have the federal government step up. But to my knowledge, we've been asking, we've been sending letters. I even understood, I guess, Chair, did you go to Washington, D.C. asking for dollars to help with this? And to date, we haven't had any response or any help. But what we've done, though, unfortunately, is a country. We do want immigrants. We do want people to come here. We are a country of immigrants, but we need to be done in a controlled manner, not a crisis manner. We've rolled out the welcome mat. We're a sanctuary state, and with local county dollars, we pay for legal deportation legal fees with your tax dollars here locally. And the state is now guaranteeing and paying for health care. I think these are all great things to do, but we just can't do it at the numbers that are being allowed to come across the border. January 1st, I was at the border crossing that everybody in Hakamba, and Border Patrol was there, and we watched people just come right through the hole in the fence. And the Border Patrol was not there to stop them from coming through, it was just there to process them, and once they're here. So I think, it's completely out of control. We've got videos of boats coming ashore here in San Diego County, dozens of migrants being dropped into communities and just running into the neighborhoods. So I'm happy to support this item today, and I really think it's the feds on both sides of the aisle actually need to come together and handle this. But even if the feds don't step up, we can't continue to fund this crisis with local dollars. I agree with Supervisor Anderson, pay now or pay later, but if we start paying, and the more we pay, the less the federal government feels an urgent need to come in and I guess pay or take the responsibility that they should have had from day one. So appreciate the item coming forward, looking for all avenues to get the federal government to step up to their responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, please vote.
Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and take a lunch break for 30 minutes, and we will be back at 12:30.